Hello, David Clarke here from DVC Training, and today I'm going to look at the latest update from Grassvalley for EDIUS 11.51, which fixes quite a few bugs and adds in VST3 support, which is something quite a few people have been asking for ages. Primarily, I'm going to be looking at this support and how you use it, and also there is a nice little thing they've added, a new keyboard shortcut, which I'll explain what that does, and of course, quite a few bug fixes. So the main thing, VST3 support, what is it? VST plugins are audio plugins. So you've already got some in your EDIUS, which pop up here under audio filters, and that's all these Acorn digital noise plugins like the deverberator and the limiter and the AI cleanup dialogue-y thingy. You've already got those, and they're VST2. VST3 came out quite some time ago, and obviously is just an improvement on VST2. But you couldn't use them inside of EDIUS. Now you can. Now, I actually don't have a huge number of audio plugins. I'm either cleaning up stuff for YouTube tutorials or for my drama. To be honest, somebody else does the audio. So I don't have a huge amount of stuff. As you can see here, I've got the full suite of Acorn plugins, and I've got a thing called Supertone. As you can see now, I have VST3 versions of these plugins as well as VST2, and the VST3 ones should work better. How do you get them in there? The way you do it is pretty similar to the way that you added in VST2 plugins. Well, you go up to Settings and then System Settings, open Effects, and then go here to VST3 Plugin Bridge. And then here, you tell it where your VST3 plugins are. Now, as a default, it's put in this one, which is where a lot of VST3 plugins go, but you can stick in other folders. So what you do is you go off and find them and add them in here. Once you've added them in, you've then got to detect the plugins. The thing is, there's so many different plugins. There's a lot of free ones and paid ones, and they're so variable. Sometimes you can stick a plugin in and it'll stop your editing program from working. So in order to avoid that, what you do is you tell it where your plugins are, and then you click this button to say, well, go off and have a look in that folder to see what plugins are there. It will go through and check them all, and once it knows there are a problem, it won't install for you. So after you set the folder, click on Detect Plugins and go Yes. And then off it goes and it starts detecting stuff. Now this will take a little bit of time. I don't have many plugins, so it doesn't take very long for me. But if you've got lots of plugins, it could take quite a bit of time. And that window might appear and disappear, and other windows might appear as it goes through and checks all your plugins. I have seen other people who've got loads and loads of plugins saying that takes an awful lot of time. So once it's finished scanning, you'll have a list here of all the filters that it's found. None of them will be ticked. Now my box started off ticked because I had already done this and I came into a system where they'd already been scanned. But when you start scanning them, none of them will be ticked. So you then tick the ones that you want to include in EDIUS. It will have already rejected anything that it knows has a problem with EDIUS. These will be all the ones that it thinks will be okay. So you just can either tick the ones that you want or click Enable All and it will enable all of them. Now, it doesn't mean you might still have a problem with a particular filter, especially some free ones, and I actually have got one that I'm going to install that will cause me a problem, so we'll look at what happens when that happens. But essentially, you enable everything, then as it says down here, to apply the changes you restart EDIUS, and you won't have to scan it again unless you buy some extra plugins. And once you've done it, they'll appear here, then you can take them, drop them on your clips just exactly as before, open them up, and there we are. You get wherever the interface is for the plugins, you use them just like you would VST2 plugins. So the major thing is just how you get them in, which is to go up to System Settings. So now I'm going to add in another plugin, which isn't in the folder, just so you can go through the procedure. I happen to know that this one actually has a problem with EDIUS at the moment, so it's going to cause it not to boot up. So you'll see the way to fix it if that's what goes wrong. This is actually a plugin that I do use quite a lot, so I'll carry on using the VST2 one, which does work, and I'll let you know in a future video if I can find out what went wrong. So this plugin is a limiter, which is this thing, George Young's limiter. So I basically downloaded it from the internet and unzipped it into this folder. This particular filter, as you can see, you've got VST2, VST3 plugins, and something else called AAXs, but it's the VST3 ones I look at. But what I would do is go to the VST3 one, get the 64-bit one, and then I would copy that into my common folder here, like so. Come back into EDIUS, go back to the settings. So again, System Settings Effects, VST3, do a quick scan or a slow scan if you've got an awful lot of plugins. And now you can see in the list, I've actually added in this W1 limiter. And then I'm going to restart EDIUS to see if it works. So obviously that plugin is causing a problem. How do I get around it? Well, the simplest way would be to go to the folder where I shoved it, that one there, and delete it, and then come back into EDIUS, like so. Now, I couldn't get into EDIUS at all there, so obviously I just had to take the thing out and get back into EDIUS. If you could get into EDIUS, but you know you've got a plugin there which is a problem, obviously you could just delete it from the folder, or you can come into the settings and just untick it. If you untick it, now that won't load the next time you start EDIUS. Now, a simpler thing might just be to, instead of using the same common folder for all your VST3s, like so, make up a folder somewhere else. I might put it in the Grass Valley folder, and I shall call it VST3s. Copy some plugins in there. And then instead here, go to the system settings and add in that specific folder and untick the common one. So now what you're saying is like only VST3 plugins that pop up in that folder need to be installed. Don't install any in any other folders. So now I've got to go ahead and redetect all that again. Just come up with a list of all the things that's found in the Grass Valley folder, and I can enable all of them and go OK and then restart EDIUS. Now it will just use the filters you put in that folder. Now in doing this, that means I have a specific folder for just the ones for EDIUS and another folder for the ones that work in other programs. You wouldn't bother with that unless you are using Premiere and Resolve or some other audio programs all on the same computer. But you could do that if you wanted to. Personally, I just leave it using the common folder, and then if I put something in there and it doesn't work, I take it out again. But that's it. That's really how you get your VST plugins. How you use them is the same as it has been with all your other audio plugins. So it's literally come over here, grab hold of something, shove it onto a clip, open up the dialog, fiddle with stuff, carry on working. Exactly the same. It's just being VST3, they should be more efficient. Not being an audio guy, actually I don't know what the difference is between VST2 and VST3 plugins, but I am assuming that because it's got a 3 on it, they're better. There is a page on the EDIUS website at EDIUS World which has a list of all the VST3 plugins that they've tested and whether they work or not. There's also another link here which will take you to a page which explains to you how to put the plugins in, which is what I was just going through. But here's a list of stuff that they have tested, some with notes about what you have to do to fix it, and so on. There is also one issue that they have listed. Let me show you with my little Super Tony thing here. If I put this plugin Clear on, open it up, you get an interface which lets you take away the ambience or take away the reverb or boost the voice or whatever. You know, simple little interface. This is viewing the plugin on a 1920 screen at 100% scaling. If I look at this on a 4K screen, you'll notice it doesn't scale properly, which is one of the things they say is currently an issue. I don't know whether that will be fixed in the future, but that is something. If you're using a screen which has got a different scaling set to it, maybe your interface might not look as clear as it should do. But yeah, that's the big new thing, the fact that you can use VST3 plugins. Now, so there were a bunch of interesting bug fixes. For people that use the BAT server, possibly the most useful fix is that in the previous version of EDIUS, if you had the BAT server and you opened up EDIUS, there wouldn't be a bin window and you'd have to go and bring it up so you could actually see the flipping thing. That was caused by a bug that was introduced in the last version. It is now fixed. So you can quite happily have the BAT server running and have your bin window there every time you open EDIUS. Another thing they've added in is a little keyboard shortcut. With EDIUS, there are lots of keyboard shortcuts, and a lot of them do things which you can't do in any other way. So unless you assign something to that keyboard shortcut, you can't do whatever this thing is. And this new keyboard shortcut is this one. Added extend focused sequence marker to cursor position. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to come into the keyboard shortcut. So that's user settings, user interface, keyboard shortcuts, and I'm going to look for extend, types in the start of extend, this thing here, extend focus sequence, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to put a keyboard shortcut on that. Let's, I don't know, make it F5. F5 might be something you use all the time. I personally don't, but it swaps you back to normal mode if you're in multi-camera or trim mode. But right now I've assigned it to this thing. So what does it do? So I put a marker at the start of this clip. I wish I could put a marker that just lasted the total duration of that clip. So you could go to the marker, choose edit marker, and then give it a duration of something. Not entirely sure what duration that is. Could guess it at about 10 seconds probably. And there we are. It's given me a mark. It hasn't gone the whole length of the clip because I didn't quite know how long the clip was. But that gives me a marker which lasts the duration of that clip. So it's just basically put an in and out on the marker. If you come up here, you now have an in and out on the marker. What this new keyboard shortcut does is, say if you're having to go out to edit marker and all the rest of it, you stick in a marker, move your cursor to somewhere like the end of that clip, make sure that marker is selected, and then press your keyboard shortcut. And it sets the in and out from the start to wherever you finish. So again, if I wanted to put a marker to cover the duration of that clip, I could put a marker in, pop to the end, press F5. Small thing. Actually, I found that pretty useful. For example, I was doing a scene that had lots of effects in it. So each individual shot had an effect. And I wanted a simple way of sticking in a list that told me how long each of those shots was. So that when I went off to Fusion or Blender to do my effects, I knew how long it should be. Obviously, I can just choose the clip and mark it in and out point, and it tells me up here anyway. But you go and move a cursor somewhere else and mark another in and out point, it's gone. I wanted a list with that stuff in. I have 15 different effect shots. I wanted a list. I then actually take that list out of EDIUS, make up a spreadsheet, put some notes on it, do all sorts of stuff with it. But I just wanted a quick way of shoving something that's the duration of a particular clip. So I put in markers with in and out points. Now I can do it so quickly. Just go V, move it along, keyboard shortcut, job done. And I end up with a marker list which shows me where these things start and end. Let's say what I then did, because I wanted to send this on as a note to somebody else, was I exported it as a CSV, and then I imported that into a spreadsheet. I actually use Google Docs for that. Load it up, suddenly you get a spreadsheet with the markers, the comments, everything else in it. It's just a nice quick way of making the in and out on a marker without having to faff around. Simple little keyboard shortcut. EDIUS is full of little things like that that make life a bit quicker. I forget about them a lot of the time because I'm so used to using them. It's only when I go and use something else I'm thinking, well, why am I going to click 5 times to do this? Where in EDIUS I could just click something and do it straight away, which to me is one of the strengths of EDIUS. If you're ordering EDIUS, there's a new thing they've brought in for people that have other editing programs. You can get a significant discount off the price of EDIUS. So for 300 quid, including VAT, you can get a jump to crossgrade from any other editing program. And the proof that you require isn't very much. More or less, it's just the serial number from your previous program. Has to be a program that was over a certain value. So it should have cost more than €100 in the first place. So not something like Pinnacle Studio, but Premiere, Vegas, any decent professional program. Of course, most of the people watching this video will probably have EDIUS already, but tell your friends they can get EDIUS and move over to that and save them a bit of dosh while they're doing it. And they'll get a full version of EDIUS 11 with all the extras. Anyway, hope you found that video useful. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of thing. Visit the website www.dvctraining.co.uk for more information about EDIUS and looking for upgrades and so on. So anyway, I hope you found that video useful. And I'll see you next time.